Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. I am one of your hosts, Never Wrong Nick Bull. So happy you are joining us. Of course, it's the busy holiday season. We're glad you're here with us. We hope we're accompanying you, whether if you're not tuned in live later on during the week, getting through holiday travel, all the stressful fun times with your family, of course. But no, we want to thank you for being here with us. We know we listen, we see the numbers, and a lot of people listen to us later on, and that's cool. I love that. So hope we're a part of your holiday weekend, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you guys. I'd be remiss if I did not introduce my tag team partner. We are co-tag team champions of the For Frequency's Sake Network. We don't have a title defense in sight. We got it on cruise. No, I'm just kidding. We got big things planned for 2025. This guy's got a lot under the hat. He's got the hat off tonight, but he's got a lot under the hat when it comes to booking this show and looking out for the best interests of our fans. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I am doing great. I'm excited. This is what we consider our ugly Christmas sweater party of the year, even though neither one are wearing one. I will caveat that with my current weight, I can't find an ugly Christmas sweater that would fit me. We're working on that, though. Nick, how are you feeling tonight, my friend?
I'm feeling great. I'm not going to lie. It's a little chilly here in the High View. The heater's doing all it can to catch up. I'm just more of a flannel guy than an ugly sweater guy. My bad. I mean, so, and then I'm not wearing the hat to look cool. I'm not wearing the hat to look cool. I'm wearing the hat to keep warm. So, to look cooler, excuse me. Wink, wink, nod, nod. That's a joke, of course, but no, feeling great. Coming off last week's episode with the Cardies, it was a lot of fun. We got to see the voting breakdown a few days later, and it was really good to see a lot of numbers, and it was good. It tells me people are stopping by the page and checking us out and have interest in the show, and that's good. And we appreciate that. We couldn't do it without you. We're one of you. We are fans, and that's why we're the podcast by the fan for the fans. So I'm very thankful for the response from that episode, but onward and upward. And yeah, we're at the ugly sweater Christmas party of our catalog. This is episode 163. Wow. December. I don't want to remember. That is certain. This show is something. It's something I don't need to ever watch again. I took 4 pages of notes because I think there's a lot of stuff in this show. There was some good, a lot of bad. And it's consensus. I mean, I have yet to meet somebody that said, "Man, no, this show's not that bad." Everybody's kind of in the boat when or on the side when it says that this is definitely one of the worst shows of all time.
For sure, this show, in my opinion, is the filth you cannot wash off. Speaking of the filth you can't wash off, we have a surprise for everyone. He's gotten a little cleaner since he went by that moniker. But we are welcoming live into the studio for his 5th appearance on a full episode, our great friend and collaborator, one JT Energy. JT, how are you, my friend?
Five time.
Yes.
He's back. That's right. The filth you can't wash off, a.k.a. the Feline Phenom, a.k.a. JT Energy, live in the studio.
I couldn't.
Welcome to the show. So glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I love your segment every week, but I really enjoy the times we get to interact, whether it's in the Card Rip group, which we can talk about later, whether it's at a show, whether it's like this. Love hearing your input because besides being a wrestler, you're a fan. You're a big time fan, and it shows. And it shows in your work and in your passion. And so, like, we love having fans on. We love talking about stuff, and there's plenty to talk about with this little show we reviewed.
Oh man, is there? God, I hope all these people live on any of our how many things are we live on right now? That's the real question. Just two.
Facebook
are we live on Facebook and YouTube? Well, all the live people and the people that will tune in later, hopefully you can sit down and watch the 1995 King of the Ring during this holiday season, because especially if you're on the naughty list, you don't even have to get cold this year. You just have to watch this pay-per-view.
Yes. I had to Clockwork Orange myself to get through this. I had to tape my eyes open.
Oh, you better chill out. It's not that bad, guys. Come on.
It's the best with what they could do. Hey, I was thinking about this today, talking things to talk about the show, bringing up things. There wasn't a title defended on this pay-per-view. No tag titles, no IC title, and the champion was in a tag team match. No titles were defended on this show. I mean, you couldn't get away with that today.
Well, so let's start with this year, okay? 1995. I think a lot of people, when they think back to the new generation era, coming out of the golden era into the new generation and the change that we all evolved through, I think 1995 is like the definitive year where I really, really get sucked into the WWF and into pro wrestling. So like this time period, 94 into 95, when we start to get this change and In Your Houses come about and things of that nature, there's like so many deep nostalgic memories of this time for me that, like, even when I go back and watch it, there's still a lot of nostalgia that carries me through, being like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I can understand who I liked, what I liked, how I liked it. And if I look at today's product, especially with our main event that we'll get to later, having your WWF champion team up with someone who they wanted to get a new good babyface rub on with two big extreme heels to set up something future, that seems like some of the stories that we tell nowadays to get from one PLE to the next, or Saturday night's main event or something of that nature. So like, there's a lot of things that I felt while I was watching this that I saw today's new product recycling kind of some of those similar stories that we still see in the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah. Nick, you look like you were about to say something.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I think it, I don't know what the shelf life would be like, how long it would be to recycle something, but I've always thought when like something's like a throwback, you're shouting back to something, you're kind of giving that person some respect, and you're doing it to make it known that where it came from. Hey, I'm doing it now, but this is where it came from type of deal. Right. You're kind of like gearing the fans in that direction. So did
you guys, I assume everybody watched this on Peacock, correct?
Yes,
I did. I watched it in like 3 different settings is what I did. I just sat down. CZ and I watch things differently. I watch everything once, but I'm writing down everything that kind of trips my trigger along the way.
Yeah.
He watched it twice. He's the trooper of the group. He gets the gold star.
Even better. I love it.
He watched the show twice. So
I like to get a feel for the show and just kind of immerse myself in it on the first run through. And then I'll go back and I'll rewatch it and take notes. That's just kind of how I feel comfortable it. And I mean, wrestling is my life, so I don't have much else going on. Well, that's changing a little bit. I'm going to be getting in a little bit better shape here as we go into the new year. So, but that's neither here nor there. This show starts off, and I want to ask you, Nick, when are we getting our own blimp?
I don't know. Man, that'd be pretty cool. You know what? I always thought that was cool. I always thought that was cool when I saw it on TV. And then when you actually went to a live event and saw it, it was kind of like a thing to see at a wrestling show in the 90s, was it not?
Blimps were huge. I feel like at the Super Bowl, there was a blimp, and all the other places, like that was a thing that was just outside. Somebody had a blimp. Somebody paid for a big logo to be put on the side of it. And whether it was 1-800-COLLECT or whatever it might be, Stridex.
Stridex.
I like the little thing that they used to float around the arenas. Like that was kind of fun, just as like a little bit of advertising, just something different. Like how can you not look up and take a picture of the blimp when you go to a WWF event this time?
Agreed. And you go back and watch these pay-per-views, it's like it'll be like a WWE drinking game in a few years. You go back, you see the blimp, take a drink type of deal. And it had its presence. It just, like you tell people, like the 90s, you just had to be there, right? You had to live the 90s to know.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite things about going back and watching some of these old pay-per-views is like, I know in today's world, this giant amount of time later, we can think what we want about Vincent Kennedy McMahon. But when these things start up and you hear the life in this man's voice to get these pay-per-views going, holy cow, how can you not be just over the moon excited about the $50 that you just spent to get this thing going? Because Vinnie Mac is pumped with the juice going through his veins, and he is ready to talk professional wrestling in Philadelphia.
You know,
you jumped right onto about the top of my notes, JT. I said, I want to ask you guys, what were you guys doing in 1995 on June 25th? I want to get that question asked after this, but after, we get this intro and this huge history lesson from a screaming Vince McMahon, but it's screaming in an educational and excitement way. He's not scolding you. It's the city of brotherly love, and going on and on. Let's throw away what he's been accused of. What he did here, he's promoting, man. He is trying to do his best to get everybody tuned in and hyped up for a show that he probably knows. This may not be our best show or some of our best booking decisions, but here we go. I always appreciated his excitement and his over the top at the beginning of a show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. I want to go back. Nick, you talked about a drinking game when the blimp arrives. 1990s WWF, when Vince is on commentary, it's not only him, but you will drink yourself under the table if you're a drinker every time they say the word maneuver. It is every match at least 3 times, if not more. What a maneuver!
There's a lot of tropes during this time period, that's for sure. And that's the whole element of the commentary team is just another level. And honestly, that's one of the things I really like about this watch. Like, no matter what you think, I could listen to a lot of Vince McMahon and Michael P.S. Hayes, aka Doc Hendricks, baby.
Doc Hendricks.
Oh my gosh, he is just turned up so much too. I love Doc Hendricks. He's great on this show.
I have loved him in almost every role he's had. I mean, obviously as the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes, as Doc Hendricks, he was fine. Like, he had my attention. He was good with his delivery. And of course, now he's one of the backstage producers now with WWE. But I loved when I seen it was McMahon and him. I was like, okay, this isn't going to be, this ain't going to be bad. These guys are good. And they had some good stuff all throughout the show.
Yeah.
Now you want to know what I don't know anything about. And I like to think that I remember a lot of stuff during this time period is Stephanie Wind. When this woman pops on the screen, I have no memory of her whatsoever. And initially I thought she was like just at the start of the show. And then as the show went on, I realized she was on the show a lot and she had like a main prominent role as an interviewer, but I don't remember anything about her, but she was all over this show. And then they even had clips that she was like at the Hall of Fame as well, hanging out with Alundra Blaze and Fabulous Moolah. And do you guys remember this lady at all?
Not at all.
I do vaguely, and that's because like I was a religious buyer every month. I never subscribed to it, but I was a religious buyer of the WWF magazine every month. And I remember like seeing her, and I think her and Todd Pettengill did a show together. It might have been like,
was she part of the Saturday morning show?
Yes.
Was it Livewire? Does that sound right?
God, it might have been pre-Live Wire. Maybe it was Live Wire. It was like the Saturday morning highlight show.
I wonder if she was like, or maybe it was WWF Mania. I know they had a Saturday morning show and a Sunday morning show.
It was more, I remembered her face. Like I'm like, oh, I remember her, but I couldn't remember her name.
Well, she's all over this show, and I don't remember, but now I do. So I'm sure at some point in the future, you know what? Will she ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame? No, she won't. She was one and done. But you know who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame someday and also makes a showcase on this show? The two guys opening the doors for every single match.
Yes, I noted it.
Yep.
Matt and Jeff Hardy, a.k.a. the guys that opened the door for every single person at the 1995 King of the Ring, doing their job in between getting beat up by people like Razor Ramon or IRS, whoever it would have been week to week. They're paying their dues just like we all have to do in the world of professional wrestling.
I had that written down in my notes. I have it written down for later because it was a really, like the first time you get a really good close up of them. And I'm like, oh yes, that's right. This is Jeff and Matt Hardy. This is. They're young. They're very young, and it's just it's so neat to see them. Wow, they're there. Yeah. And then like, hey, they're still with us and they're still wrestling. They're the TNA tag team champions. Like a lot of times there's people on this show we'll talk about that are no longer with us. So like, I'm so glad they're both still around and both still active in wrestling. And Jeff's kind of battled the demons and seems to be on the right side of things.
Absolutely.
I do like how this show. Who there? Who do you got? Who are you seeing?
What's that?
Who are you seeing? Who are you talking about?
You know, I was just going to bring up someone else who's all over this show, and that's Savio Vega.
Savio Vega is all over this show. This is the Savio Vega show. I think it's his showcase.
There's no need to put out a best of DVD for Savio Vega. Just put up 95 King of the Ring, right?
Yeah. When this show starts, I do really appreciate that they essentially threw in the free-for-all that led Savio to get onto this pay-per-view, because they do a beautiful recap throughout this whole pay-per-view of telling you how everybody beat so-and-so on what show, however many weeks ago, to like keep you up to date on how we got our potential next King of the Ring winner. And the one remaining spot to be on the show happens on the free-for-all. Hopefully get to someone buying pay-per-view tickets. And we see Savio Vega against Erwin R. Shyster. And I do love, and this happens a lot on this show, a lot of people are accompanied to the ring. Like they're hanging out with their buddies or their manager or their teammate. And I think that I really liked that aspect it made me realize like there was a lot of companionship throughout this time period where you were associated with certain people, and that helps you be a good babyface or a good heel. And that helped me see who you were friends with as a kid. And that helped me know, oh, you're a good guy because you're friends with Razor Ramon. And if Razor Ramon vouches for you, I bet I'll give you a shot. And we have Savio Vega coming out, being a proud Puerto Rican American, having the dual flag. Razor's got those beat up ribs taped up, which I love when you get a good tape job. An injury, it sells it. It's over the top, but it's everything I love about it. And Erwin R. Shyster, he's done the job for years and years. Bless his heart. Once a tag team champion, but he's the first guy you got to run through when you start to climb the ladder of the $1 million corporation.
Yes.
You brought up a good point there. When you talk about seeing the wrestlers being accompanied to the ring by other wrestlers, like this is pre-internet days. People have to remember here, pre-internet. And the only other time you really seen teams or superstars interact was like at a Survivor Series. So you didn't really know who, kind of palled around with who. So it was kind of cool. It was different to see this on a stronger scale here, because before we really didn't get that. You just kind of speculated or you wondered, but this is kind of the first time it was made more prominent.
Yeah. And when you have a top level guy like Razor Ramon, who had been established over the last couple of years, and then the first time you see, you realized he eventually became buddies with 1-2-3 Kid, which made a lot of sense because of the 1-2-3 Kid getting the flash pin over him and the feud that they had, which helped later on when 1-2-3 Kid turned on him. It helps establish these friendships that people have. And when you bring it in as simple as Savio Vega, the new buddy of Razor Ramon, because Razor Ramon is Cuban and from Florida, and he's got this moniker to him. It makes sense for Savio to come in as the Puerto Rican American. You could see these guys hanging out at the marina or at the bar or something like this, and they became friends, and they're both pro wrestlers. So here they are now, and they're going to kick some butt for the WWF.
Still one of the greatest ruses the WWF ever pulled off was, hey, I believe Scott Hall was Cuban. I mean, dude, everybody did.
Hey, there's many people on this show that are not the ethnicity that they're billed at, and WWF got away with it for many years. And I think back to that myself, and I go, you know what? I believed all this time you could have put anybody on the screen and said they were from anywhere, and as long as they sounded different, I probably would have thought, absolutely, why wouldn't that guy be from there? And then you look up stuff on the internet years later, and you're like, none of this makes any sense. I was lied to for years.
But he pulled it off. He pulled it.
Yeah,
he was
absolutely
so smooth, man. God, he was so good. I have on here from Savio Vega. He gets the win in the dark match qualifier, of course, over IRS. And he gets it with the spinning heel kick. Why don't we see this move anymore? I remember really being prominent in X-Pac's matches. He would use it from time to time, but we don't see this anymore. Maybe we see it from JT Energy in 2025.
Hey, the last person to really use this as a finishing move that I remember was Tyler Breeze hitting the beauty shot.
Yes.
Tyler Breeze would hit that big spinning heel kick. And D'Lo Brown was another big spinning heel kick guy. Edge used to do it when he was with Edge and Christian. It's one of those things that it seems like such a classic maneuver. And right now, if I think about who does it, I don't think about anybody. Nobody's utilizing this big, giant spinning heel kick. And we have tons of athleticism all over the roster right now. Somebody just needs to jump on that move because it clearly can win you some matches. And they did put over that Savio Vega or IRS, either one of these men, if they are to advance tonight, if they were to become the king of the ring, they have to get through 4 matches. So they already start to build the suspense of neither one of these men are probably going to make it because they're going to have the longest road ahead of them to put the doubt into, hey, you know what? We're instantly going to tell you that either one of these guys, they're the biggest underdog on the card.
Yeah, it's great storytelling. They throw that at you so much because they want you to believe that, okay, this guy's going to fight his heart out, but probably doesn't have a chance of making it to the finals because he's got such a mountain to climb ahead of him.
Right. Yep. The other thing I notated on here is that in that IRS and Savio match, whoever the ref was, not a normal ref, not one of the regulars that we see all the time, and he was wearing long sleeves. And I instantly caught my eye, and it made me think that I wonder if this guy's got some tattoos that he had to cover up because no other refs on the show are like that. So I wonder if he almost had his own little fill-in dark match to see if we could get a new referee, but I don't think it worked out for him.
No.
Good eye. I didn't catch on to that. So gosh, I'm glad. That's why we have him here. This is his 5.
These are the kind of notes that I take. The other note that I took is that the old classic jump off the top rope into the put your foot up happened here in this match. And it's one of those things where when I see this, it's crazy, but at the same time, I love it. I love that someone would jump and they're not really going for anything. And then you eat the foot and you go into Looney Tunes mode. And it's just It's one of those things I'm sure a lot of people hate some of this wrestling that happens during this time period, but like I grew up with it for so many years that I can't help but love to see these things every time they happen. Regardless, I mean, I was told to suspend my disbelief for years and years, and that's what I do when I revisit this stuff. It's great every single time. Also, Savio Vega with the SV shaved into his head. I love it. Putting over those 90s vibes.
Oh, Savio Vega, what a great guy he was, and what a trooper for putting on 4 matches in a night. We'll get more on that later, but we go into the show and Savio's not done. He just had this match like literally minutes before, and now he's got to go against Yokozuna. And I have it in my notes. Yokozuna is managed by both Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette. Mm-hmm. And I love that he has 2 managers. I don't know why. Absolutely. I don't know why he needs 2 managers, but I love that he does.
Well, it's almost like you had Camp Cornette, who decided to try to get Yokozuna, and it's a 2-for-1 deal. Because if you get Yokozuna, you get Mr. Fuji that comes with him.
Yes. I was a little surprised. Usually you see Mr. Fuji, you're going to expect some powder being thrown in somebody's face. A little disappointed that we didn't see that on this show because it's kind of his trope. But I'm not upset by it. I'm trying to look through my notes. They bill Yokozuna at 641 pounds.
Just the guys on this show are insane in size. Like the weights that they are billed at is huge. Like we have giants on this show. Also, This is where we're going to jump back into people who are not the ethnicity that they're billed at. Yokozuna, my whole life, giant sumo wrestler. Got it? No, he's part of the bloodline. He is part of the Samoan dynasty. And for years, he's just billed as a giant sumo wrestler. And
I think you could put him right behind Razor Ramon as 1A and 1B of guys that pulled it off, and nobody thought otherwise.
No, I loved it. It was great. If I think back during this time period, I was probably really into playing Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo, and E-Honda is part of that game. So like, why not? Wouldn't I believe a giant sumo wrestler could be in the WWF? Because I was playing against the sumo wrestler in the video game, and he was a big baddie. So like, I love just these 90s vibes to the show. And when the show starts up, I'm going to jump back here for a second. So we get Doc Hendricks and we get Vince McMahon talking to each other, introducing the show, getting everybody rocking and rolling. Doc Hendricks, to me, looks like he could be Pat McAfee's dad. If you go back and look at the start of the show, just the vibe of their face, like I looked at Doc Hendricks and I go, that's Pat McAfee's crazy long lost father. That's what I think.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, Hendricks has the top shelf mustache.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the blonde locks, a lot like McAfee. I'd buy it. I'd go along with it. I've suspended disbelief for less, so I would go along with it.
We do get the tail of the tape here. We got Yokozuna, who beat Lex Luger to get here via count out after he dropped a huge leg on him on the outside. So I like that. Also, some storytelling here. Yoko advances to the tournament with a count out. Yoko eliminated from the tournament via count out. So I don't know if that was intentional, but I did put those two things together, and I appreciated that little bit there. Also, we had some shenanigans going on when Yoko advanced because they were stealing the United States flag from the flag bearer who was on the outside, and Lex had to make the USA save, which cost America our chance to have a new King of the Ring. So Lex Luger really dropping the ball, caring too much about America and not winning. So it's really sad, but
we don't know if the Lex Express was what brought Lex to this event or not. We are not told that.
No idea. But we did get Todd Pentgill. He's here. He's
Yeah.
excited. I do love him. He's one of my favorite backstage announcers.
I have on here, I love the King of the Ring, the logo, and then like the flag that they have. Like they showed the flag. And I always I love when they threw up the brackets after each match and who
absolutely
advanced. And as they discussed, you know, what would happen or what needed to happen for this to happen. I absolutely ate that up as a kid. I eat it up now as an adult. I love seeing that stuff.
I also think the way that we're doing the King of the Ring during this time period is a lot. I know it's rough on the performers, but if I see a single person advance several times in one night, I get bought more into that person. I think as a performer, like it shows the perseverance, whether they're good or bad. It like makes you think that they're better than they were coming into the following Monday Night Raw because of what they just went through to become the King of the Ring. And so when we get Savio Vega beating IRS on the free for all, and then he gets a victory over a 2-time WWF champion in the first round, and now I'm like, whoa,
big upset. It's
upset.
Yokozuna.
Now Savio's got some momentum. He didn't just beat an IRS tag team champion. We beat Yokozuna, who beat people like Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, like, and now we've got Savio on the roll here. We don't know if it's going to keep going, but it at least buys you into Savio immediately into the pay-per-view. So it's like they're really doing their due diligence by telling this story with Savio. So I personally liked how we're starting this show and getting things going with a hot baby face that I'm bought into as a kid.
Yeah. I think not only that, I love when, you know, they built Savio really well. I love when they take a smaller wrestler and just have him endure so long with these bigger, giant dudes. Like, I know a lot of people who don't watch the show may not go to SCW Pro, but I kind of think of Carlos Oliva getting the crap kicked out of him by Mason Beck, who's this towering man, and just keep coming back for more. That tells a really good story and invests you in when you have that underdog, that smaller wrestler who just keeps coming back. He won't stay down. He refuses to quit. That invests you really well as well.
Savio Vega is the 1995 Sami Zayn.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I like that. I can go along with that for sure.
Right?
For sure. Yes.
Also, we're in Philadelphia, aka we're close to ECW territory, and in the front row, I don't know if you guys know these guys, but Hawaiian shirt guys right there in the front row, right there in the front row. For years and years, anytime you get close to Philly, it's always Hawaiian shirt guys right there in the front row before we had green shirt guy or any of these other weirdos in the front row. These are the original front row guys that I always remember were Hawaiian shirt guys.
Yep. I remember watching them on all those old ECW shows. Did you guys see who else was sitting in the front row?
Are you talking about the Creatures of the Night?
Nope.
Who else? Who else is front row?
That super fan Vlad is sitting in
super fan Vlad was in the front row. I did not see Vlad.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't get that either.
Yep.
Was he on hard cam side? Which side
was
he on?
in the row, and he was as you watched on TV and looked at Hawaiian shirt guy.
Okay.
He would have been to our right.
Okay. I might have to go back and watch this again. I got
he's
see
in like
Vlad.
a royal blue t-shirt. He's
okay.
He's got a very definitive look, and it's just a very much younger face of him. I'm like,
I also think we could have had Yokozuna advance if he would have had help from his friend and tag team partner Owen Hart, but he was too busy in the phone. He's too busy in the back on the telephone talking to someone. So what better way to make sure that we can't get Owen helping Yokozuna by just putting him on a good old telephone call in the back? And you know what? It took up all his time, unfortunately.
Yeah, you would think that his tag team partner would be at ringside with him along with Fuji and James E. Cornette. But no, he's preoccupied. He's yelling at some fans on the phone.
Yeah, and we do get some shenanigans here at the end of this match. This happens multiple times on this show, but what I love about it is it's great. A lot of the people that are there on the outside, when they jump up for interference, they get hit, and that leads to something here, but the crowd always loses their mind when Jim Cornette gets hit or Ted DiBiase gets hit. Like
Yes.
whoever's on the outside is the one person that if they get their clock clean, the crowd just loses their minds. So I did appreciate some of that little bit that we got there going on just to give us our first finish here to get Savio Vega over Yokozuna to start the show.
Let me ask a question here about shenanigans. How much shenanigans is too much on a show, JT?
I suppose it depends on the level of shenanigans. It also probably depends on if I have my fan eye on or my performer eye on. Because from a performer aspect,
I want both answers.
Okay, so from the performer aspect, I want you to see as much different stuff as possible. So if I give you too many of the same thing, and then you notice it, it takes you out of the element. And so if we saw every single person do the same exact finish, it's annoying. Same thing. Like if you watch a show, any major show, and you see multiple low blows as part of finishes, you should be kind of a little disappointed. Like I already saw that earlier. Like we shouldn't treat the fan as dumb. We should make sure that we give you the biggest buffet possible. And so if people are not using their wits or their wrestling brain to make sure that we're giving the crowd the best show possible while not overdoing anything, then great. That's what we should be doing. Now, from a fan's perspective, I want to see some of these people get hit. So if I see Jim Cornette get hit, and then I see Double J get hit, if it's done in different ways, then maybe it's okay. But I didn't feel too taken out of a lot of this stuff. If I sat through this whole pay-per-view, I did it in two watches. If I sat and watched through the whole thing, I feel like I could have got a little bit more tired by the end of it. But I didn't get too taken out. And every time I saw performers be in there, the only thing that really took away from some of the stuff was just the in-ring maneuvers, which you talked about, CZ. This wrestling during this time period is just a different animal compared to 2020s that we're in. So like no one's coming here for some of the work rate stuff. And there's very, very few people on this show that really stand out in a good way as far as how they worked in the ring, setting themselves apart from other people on the show.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I find myself guilty of that too. I find myself guilty where I've really taken a liking to a lot of the work rate guys. And so when a match comes on that really didn't have a great work rate, but the fans loved it, it was universally loved, I'm kind of like, well, I just don't get it. But like, you're right. You need to realize what this was. And you're right. It was a different animal. Like,
yeah, I
wasn't coming here. I put myself back. I was 15 in 95.
Right.
When this show was going on. Put myself back in those in those 15-year-old shoes, and like I didn't know what work rate was when I was 15 years old as a wrestling fan. I just wanted to see who was going to win this tournament, and what was going to happen with this and that. So kind of neat. Like as our wrestling fans, we love nostalgia so much as wrestling fans because it's a nostalgia-driven sport, in my opinion. And today's stuff is great. Don't get me wrong, but we need to just sometimes take it back to a different time and age and look at it through those eyes.
Yeah. Yep. And we go from, I like that we get a lot of backstage segments on this show as well. The next person that we get to see
I do too.
For the first time is we get to see stinky old Jerry the King Lawler, one of my good friends, showcasing his nasty, dirty socks that I don't think he's washed since this match has been announced. I can remember watching Monday Night Raw and all these other different things, even looking at WWF magazine of Jerry Lawler in the horse stalls, walking around in the manure, getting ready for this match. Like it's in my head forever about the insanity that this match is. And the fact that we get to watch a Kiss My Foot match. And if you don't like this type of professional wrestling, then me and you are not friends, my friend, because anything that is insane on this level, okay? Because there's a difference and I strongly believe this, in a kiss my foot match between Bret Hart and Jerry the King Lawler in a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. That is a totally different, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to come up with a trope match versus a kiss my foot. Big build with a former multiple time WWF champion and Jerry the King Lawler into this. Like, it's crazy, but it's done the best way. And it can be done, I still think, in today's professional wrestling. You just have to treat it in a way that does not disrespect the fans too much. Right. So like, I love that we got to see the Kiss My Foot match because it was one of my favorite matches on this whole show, to be honest. And I got plenty of notes about it later.
You know, JT,
I can't wait to get there.
I was going to wait until we started talking about the match to ask you this, but since we're talking about the concept, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and ask you right now. Would you ever be in a Kiss My Foot match, and why would it be against Jared Thumb?
Oh, those dirty muscatine feet. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I'm sure, he'd probably put some vignettes out of him hunting in the woods with his feet off, not being able to catch a single deer because of all that odor coming off of him. You know what? If someday Jared Thumb wants to find a reason to face me in a Kiss My Foot match, sign me up. Sign me up right now. Because I'm not kissing that man's feet. He's kissing my feet, okay? Now let's get back on track here. Let's talk about what really matters. And that's the outfit that Double J Jeff Jarrett is wearing in this very next match. Jeff Jarrett looking like $1 million as your Intercontinental Champion, leading the Roadie, a.k.a. the Road Dogg, to the ring for action.
That's JEFFJARRETT. He looks like a caricature of himself, and I love it. That entrance, oh, I love it. I loved it. It was so over the top. The flashing cowboy hat. Oh, I loved it. I always enjoyed Jarrett's runs in WWE, whether it was this or Attitude Era. Attitude Era Jarrett. Even the stuff with China. I thought all that stuff was pretty decent.
Yeah. And the Road Dogg, aka the Roadie, he gets to the King of the Ring by beating Doink the Clown. That's who he wins. So that's right. we got no Doink on this show, but we do get the up and comer, the Roadie, with some of the longest braids that I've seen this man wear ever. They're so long at this point. It is wild.
Which that brings me to a question for you, Nick. When are you going to braid your hair like the Road Dogs?
Oh, please.
It's got to get a little longer, I think, but I don't know. Maybe we will. We'll see.
Nick's got some of that Bob Sparkplug Holly hair going on right now. That's what I would say. Spark Plug coming to the ring. Bob Holly. He looks like $1 million here. The hair on his head, he's got, nobody else does, but Bob Holly is a man on a mission when it comes to, and this is a very clear, if you watch the first match with Savia and Yoko to this match, Rhodey and Bob Holly are ready to beat each other up. And mostly Bob Holly beating up the Rhodey. And you can see the intensity in this man's eyes. And I feel like I could never take him as intense as he really was because he was a race car driver. And I didn't connect with that. But he was beating people up. He's really beating the crap out of the Roadie. Like I felt bad, honestly, for the Roadie in this because Bob was just going to town on this man. Bob Holly's moving like a cruiserweight in this match. He is fast and furious. I don't know if that's part of the race car driver gimmick because he has to wrestle as fast as he drives the cars. But this man was off his rocker when this thing started. I was tired watching it.
All the car puns on commentary during this match too. I wish I had written some of them down, but they were just throwing these car puns out throughout the entire thing. Every other sentence was some kind of car.
I think I'm done when JT said he couldn't relate to a race car driver. Oh.
We broke
Sorry. Nick. That there's a lot of characters I I could maybe believe him, but a race car driver, I could not believe in. Sorry. And I'm sure he raced plenty of cars throughout his whole life. I just couldn't. Hardcore Holly, I can get behind, but not Bob Sparkplug.
Oh
Holly.
my God.
He just
I haven't laughed that was a
not
good
my
one.
cup of tea.
Hey,
We
speaking
did get
of characters,
what you got?
speaking of characters, Bob Sparkplug Holly won his way into this match by beating the surefire first ballot Hall of Famer Mantar.
That's right. On WWF Superstars, he got that victory over Mantar. What did he hit him with? I think the crossbody off the top rope, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Hit him with
Yep.
he hit him with the checkered flag.
Yeah, oh, there you go. That's what they should have called it.
I know.
So no doink, no Mantar. We're only getting these men in here. I don't know if you noticed it. Big power bomb by the Road Dogg to stop Bob's momentum. Looked like he was going for a hurricanrana, just big layout. They even said Road Dogg was taking pages out of Big Daddy Cool's book with that power bomb. So that tells you that people were not overusing moves during this time period, especially the power bomb. Power bomb is treated as a huge move in this match, and I was even surprised to hit it because I felt like that was a really big no-no during this time. Is you don't see moves that big several times throughout the night unless it is an established finishing move from someone, and I felt like they were very protected during this time. But that's just what I remember. What do I have here? This man's braids are so long, Bianca Belair was inspired by the roadie. That's what I have here.
Yeah, they're long. Like, it's got to be the longest he's ever wrestled with him, right? Like they were down past his waist.
They were real long. Like
Yeah.
when he was New Age Outlaws, and this had to have changed because there was that real small time period in there where he went from roadie to like this middle area where I think he almost shaved his head, and he had like real short hair. Him and Billy both, and then I wonder if he was like, no, I got to grow this back out. Like this short look is not working for me after we tried to take him away from Double J to establish himself as like just a regular Jesse James. That it didn't go over well. But a lot of like the Road Dogg as a performer, even like what he's wearing with like the cutoff t-shirt and the jeans, like it's exactly the same thing he would wear when he was in DX. And I noted that right away. I was like, this is the same guy. We're just seeing him 3 years prior to hitting the crotch chops and giving me the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You know, I watched this match and watched Jared and the roadie come out, and all I could think of is we are right on the cusp of the greatest country music song in wrestling history. We're not quite there yet, but we are right on the edge. Nick, I know you want to sing it.
I'm not singing it. I'm not singing it.
Dude, I see the wheel turning, Nick.
Okay, dude, it was so good. That storyline was so good. That song is catchy. I don't care if it was good or if it charted. Can you still remember it when you hear it? Yes.
100%.
It was catchy, man. It was good.
When I was a little kid and that came out, I wanted to memorize that. I felt like pride in my soul if I could sing With My Baby Tonight. I felt like if I could sing this, I would swoon a woman off her feet someday by being able to say just any and all those majestic words that came from Jeff Jarrett's mouth when we knew it was Jesse James, when we knew it was the Road Dogg. But the finisher,
that this was coming out on commentary. Doc Hendricks even says Jeff Jarrett has a music video coming out in a few weeks. So we're right there.
That's right. Yep. I do remember that.
Is this the last show pre-release of the With My Baby Tonight video? Was it released on a Raw then?
I don't know. I'm not sure when it was debuted or premiered. All I remember is no, it couldn't have been because they had the live performance at an In Your House. That was the debut of it, because I remember that In Your House. It was like this giant production of it. And I thought, whoa, he really did sing the song live. But I can't remember if there was a music video or anything that they showcased afterwards at it. Either way, like the story that they did with all this, I'm sure it was projected as this giant thing that was really going to get the roadie over, like this next level star. When people found out he sang it and like it just didn't take off. Like, because we can't have this singing guy now, because no one wants the singing guy to become the WWF champion. And really, we got to build superstars here. So like, how high is that ceiling that we can take the roadie on singing With My Baby Tonight?
Okay, this show is wedged in between In Your House 1 and In Your House 2.
Oh,
and Jarrett performed With My Baby Tonight at In Your House 2.
okay, so that's where we're right on the cusp of. Okay, I got you. That's great. I love it.
Do you remember the world pre With My Baby Tonight?
No, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. No. There's two things that I know changed this world: With My Baby Tonight and COVID. That's the two things we'll talk about, and that's it. So,
In my days work. I'm sorry. Nope.
Oh, it was so good.
you know what wasn't
Gentlemen,
good?
I think
The finish of this match wasn't good.
Which match?
The Bob, Holly, and Rhodey match. Bob
Talk
off
about
the
the
top
finish.
rope. Bob jumps off the top rope. He eats the foot, which I don't know why we're doing another eat the foot when we just did 2 things ago. Again, this is the thing where if you saw it earlier, you would have noticed it again. This one looked pretty devastating. Like he almost like dove into his foot, and it worried me a little bit when I saw it. But it's 1-2. Looks like we should have got a kick out, and we didn't. We get a 3 count. And you can almost see like the confusion on everyone's mind, like that wasn't what was supposed to happen, but we got to go forward because the official, you have to stand by his word. And Mike Chioda or whoever it was, maybe Jack Doan, they counted the 3. If you don't want to get your shoulders counted 3, you put your shoulder up, okay? And Bob Holly, too much of a devastating foot to the face. See you later. You're not the king of the ring, bud. Hopefully you didn't get yourself a crowned race car because you're not going to use it.
Oh man. Yeah, and I had pretty much exactly that written down. This finish looked like garbage.
I did not like it. No.
No.
I like the match.
But
great intensity.
You know, that's another thing that, you know, I mentioned that you could take a drink every time they said maneuver. Another word that was, I think, overly used on this pay-per-view is offense. This is an offensive tournament. You have to be offensive. Use your offense every step of the way.
Yes. But now that we've got through our first 2 first round matches, we do got our 3rd round match, which in this era, you would think we have one of our favorites who's about ready to enter the tournament, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And I will mention one of my favorite eras of outfits, Shawn Michaels, not my favorite era of person, Shawn Michaels, because the arrogance oozing off this man in the back when he is talking and flexing. Now, when I look at him now, I was instantly taken out of Shawn during this time because I looked at him and I go, like, you're so cocky and arrogant. I know you're the showstopper. You're the Heartbreak Kid. You're like, we're working to get you to the main event of WrestleManias. But like the arrogance oozing off this man in the back, like if he's a babyface and I still have like Bret Hart, who's going to kick Jerry Lawler's butt, like I still definitely like people like Bret Hart and Diesel way more on this show, Razor Ramon, versus what Shawn is putting off here. But Shawn's been built, and you can just tell like Shawn's in his I could care less era.
Yeah. Big time.
And how long is this before he loses his smile?
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like I love Shawn's look. Shawn looks like $1 million. They show Shawn beating King Kong Bundy, and that Monday Night Raw where he beat King Kong Bundy, I missed that Monday Night Raw, and I remember taping it because I can remember watching that tape over and over, and the main event was always Shawn Michaels versus King Kong Bundy, hitting the sweet chin music, getting his way into the King of the Ring, going through one of the biggest members of the $1 Million Corporation. But it's crazy to think back that I was so into Shawn Michaels at this time, and then when I go back and I watch Shawn Michaels during this time, I'm like, like that kind of feels gross to like 1995 Shawn Michaels, not because of who he was as a wrestler, just because like his personality and his presence as a human being just like didn't match what we needed in the World Wrestling Federation to like take him to the superstar level that we eventually got out of Shawn Michaels. And like he's showing the demons all over his face here, whether he knows it or not, because I'm sure at this time period he's just Shawn being Shawn.
Shawn didn't lose his smile until February 13th, 97. So we're pre that. So
Okay.
we got to look. We're kind of on the path of destruction here for HBK.
Sure, but we do the Extreme Fighting Machine coming out here with Ted DiBiase, another member of the $1 Million Corporation. And that's what I love about this show, is that we have people in the $1 Million Corporation, a big faction here, all over this thing as a potential heel faction that could have run the WWF during this time period, because Shawn had to beat King Kong Bundy, who was a member of the faction. We had IRS, we get DiBiase out here, and then later on the show, we almost get every single member of this corporation on the show in some way, shape, or form, including former members like Bam Bam Bigelow. But Kama is put over at the start of this match like $1 million. Shawn's being really cocky. I'm gonna fight you. I'm a big boxer guy. I'm gonna make fun of your gimmick. But if you listen to Taker's podcast, we all know Kama is nothing to mess with. And this was not a gimmick. This man is super dangerous, but we've never had a dangerous performer like Kama in the WWF, someone who gives you that UFC feel, because UFC wasn't this giant thing that we were all into. MMA was not this thing yet. And this was our first introduction to someone who we had to believe. But when Shawn gets cut off in this match, it's one thing, knocked over the top rope, and he's down for a long time. And that instantly puts over Kama huge in this match, which I loved and appreciated, because Shawn, he's being arrogant, but Shawn is doing what he does best, and that's selling, making sure that his opponents look like $1 million.
And of course, one of Kama's big claims to fame, his gold necklace that you see, is actually the Undertaker's urn. The Undertaker's urn that he melted down for his bling.
Absolutely, which led to a great casket match between those two. I love Kama's big chain. Kama did have a hard time getting to the King of the Ring, but he did defeat Duke the Dumpster Droese, another potential 1995 King of the Ring winner. But unfortunately, he joins up with Mantar and Doink and Lex Luger and IRS, people who did not make their way into this tournament.
Now, one thing that I have noted about Kama is his interesting hairstyle. Nick, if you braid your hair like the Roadies, I will consider cutting my hair like Kama.
Yeah.
I will strongly consider it.
Man, how great would this be?
I mean, I think my hair's long enough to braid right now, so I might do that, dude.
no.
It's gonna take you. Yeah, sign me up. I'll be Roadie, you be Kama.
Also, I don't know why, but I strongly remember this. So Shawn in the back, he's got his leather hat on, right? And then Shawn's entrance is not a normal Shawn entrance on this show. He comes out with a backwards World Wrestling Federation hat on, and it is not like, you don't get the entrance music, you don't get something. Like, I think something went haywire on this show, and Shawn had to do his entrance twice for some reason, because something's off about this Shawn Michaels entrance. It doesn't seem like the normal, like, coming out, dancing, doing the thing. Something was weird with his entrance on this show.
Duly noted. I'm gonna go back and take a look at that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
absolutely.
caught that. I didn't catch anything, but you're probably right. They probably had to go back and re-record something or reshoot something.
Yeah, but we do have a great back and forth match. But we, for the first time in a long time, we get a time limit being announced over the loudspeakers multiple times, starting to let you know, oh, we need to think about this. And unfortunately, Shawn Michaels and Kama comes to a time limit draw, eliminating both men from the King of the Ring tournament, which really sucks the life out of this crowd. especially with how much of a fan favorite Shawn Michaels was. What do I got here? Baseball slide into the super kick was money when he did hit it after the match, sending the crowd home happy. So that way they get the sweet chin music. They would get the tune up the band. The thing that I hated after this is after we like Sean's mad, but then he like looks at the camera and then he just shrugs like it's not a big deal. And I was really annoyed when I saw that because I was like, this is big. Like Brett won, Owen won.
Yep.
It seems like the King of the Ring is the stepping stone for the next big person to move into title contention or possibly into title contention. And when I see someone headed on the path, tag team champion, IC champion, giant prestigious matches, future world champion, Sean's on the road to becoming a future world champion. And like this could have been a step where he was so mad at what happened. Like, give me the rematch tomorrow night on Raw to prove that Shawn Michaels can beat Kama and then put him over, right? Something of that nature. So that way Shawn gets his win back instead of just like shrugging it off to the Philadelphia crowd, because that ECW crowd loves wrestling. And when you take a huge star like Shawn Michaels and just kind of shrugs it off to them, it's like, that's not my favorite Shawn.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, we have been at this for a while, and we, as always, need to pay dues to the other shows on the network. Otherwise, the for frequency's sake tribal chief will yell at us, and I don't really want to get yelled at. And on the other side of the break, JT, you feel like doing a live moment?
Oh, let's do it.
All right.
We will be right back in just a moment here on Card Subject to Change.
For frequency's sake has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Card Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. We are the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. I'm your host, Never Wrong, Nick Bull. Joining me is my tag team partner, the Wizard CZ. And in studio this week, we have the one and the only JT Energy. He has been breaking down the 95 King of the Ring with us here. This is our annual Ugly Sweater Party. The December I don't want to remember. And we're so glad you're with us here on the show.
Yeah, and this is the time where normally we would have a recorded segment from JT Energy, but since he's here in studio, JT, I'm going to give you the floor for a moment of focus.
Okay, so let's bring it all in here. Let's think. Let's focus. This is a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT. I don't have to do that. There's no graphic. Energy. And this week, during our review of the 1995 King of the Ring, we're going to think about some things like Savio Vega's journey to the finals of the King of the Ring, because you can't spell impossible without the word possible. You know who also probably has that mentality? Rip Studwell. So let's focus on what's possible. You know what's possible? Winning if you put the right foot forward. but also, my friend, losing, just like Savio Vega did at the end of this pay-per-view, to let all the fans down, just like Rip Steadwell's going to do. So I'm going to do one thing, and that's focus on what's important, winning, just like our future King Mabel. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
And of course, you can catch JT live at SCW Pro's Prestige Rumble coming up January 4th. Taking on talk about this match here. We've talked about Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. We've talked about the Kiss My Foot match. And now you're in a Wild Claw on a pole match this January.
Yes, I am. And if you look at this graphic here, you'll see right there on my right hand, the claw that I've worn to the ring. And I've tried to warn many of these SCW Pro counterparts that I share this locker room with for a long time, that if there's one thing you're going to do around me, it's put some respect on my name. And from the moment Rip Studwell won the QC Cup, there's one thing he hasn't done. Acknowledged me, the longest reigning QC Cup champion in SCW Pro history. And he walks around with this brand new shiny toy that he says, look at me, I'm the champion. My friend, you're not going to have to worry about that championship. You're going to have to worry about whether you can see on January 5th when you wake up after getting in a Wildcat Claw on a pole match with me at the Prestige Rumble. So JT Energy is going to make sure that Rip Studwell sees one thing for the rest of his life, and that's that lasting memory of that claw sinking deeply into his eye sockets as he screams in agony right before I become the QC Cup champion again, right before I win the Prestige Rumble and take home 2 honors in one night after I'm announced as a 3-time Performer of the Year. 2025, the year that JT Energy built.
And, while we're talking about SCW, I will take a brief aside here. Mr. Timothy Regal, Nick, he wished us a Merry Christmas. JT, he hopes you meet Krampus this year.
Ooh.
The words that I have for Timothy Regal are not allowed to be said on this podcast, so I will not get you canceled. But Timothy Regal should take out some extra protection, so he might want to call Jared Zook at Country Financial because he's going to need some extra coverage covering his way in 2025.
Man,
and of course, we're also powered by
he-
Low Price Pizza. Built by Durham Remodeling and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo.
He's cutting promos on the spot. He's calling out wrestlers on the spot. What can't this man do?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If I was under King Mabel, which is just about the size of Timothy Regal, I probably couldn't kick out. So let's hope I never get pinned by Regal. Good God. Next match is up. Mabel comes to the ring. Mabel comes to the ring. You know how he got here? He beat Adam Bomb. You know what? I wish Adam Bomb would have been more because I thought Adam Bomb was pretty freaking cool.
Agreed.
But unfortunately, Adam Bomb just never took off as a good guy or a bad guy. All I remember him from is really his big when he was part of a Survivor Series team of a bunch of big baddies. That one really sticks out for me. But when Adam Bomb became one of the baby faces, I remember him throwing out little footballs into the crowd with atomic bomb symbols on them. And that was the last I remember of Adam Bomb, sadly.
I mean, he's from 3 Mile Island, of course.
Yeah, there you go. And we also get our friend The Undertaker, who pinned the Intercontinental Champion, Double J Jeff Jarrett, to get into this tournament. And if I was looking at those brackets, I want HBK or I want The Undertaker to become the king of the ring. And I got neither. Not happy about this. But we do get 568 pounds of Mabel making his way to the ring with Mo. And the You know what? I figured out where Rip Studwell got all his gold gear from. He bought Mabel's old jacket and he cut it up to wear. That has to be where Rip Studwell got his clothes from, because that's a lot of material that King Mabel was wearing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a question for you. Could we ever see any Mabel influenced gear out of you? Like what Mabel wears? Could we see that out of JT Energy in the future?
Don't give me any ideas. JT Energy might already have some new gear coming for 2025. So you better keep your eyes peeled before you understand what we're about to get into.
Okay. I'm like, if anybody can pull it off, it's JT Energy. I got to ask him, could he pull off the Mabel look?
If there's anything we need to worry about being pulled off, it's Bob Backlund saving America. Okay. We got some great promos from Mr. Backlund here. And in the city of brotherly love, that's exactly where he needs to be, saving all these peasants, wondering, do you know who George Washington is? Do you know where the Lincoln Monument is? More Mr. Bob Backlund. That's what we need.
Oh,
he's going to take the Philly cheesesteak and put a carrot in there so you can get some vitamin E and beta carotene.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Oh, Bob Backlund.
Now, if I were to pick during this man's historic career, if I were to pick one era and version of The Undertaker, this is my favorite Undertaker. The gong, the purple, the mist, Paul Bear walking out, talking. We get the creatures of the night in the front row. Doc Hendricks putting over that it gets cold in the arena when the Undertaker makes his entrance. Just, this is the presence. These are the moments that built up the first time that I got to see the Undertaker live, and seeing this trim with the purple gloves, the purple, just the hair down in the face so you can't even see if he's alive or dead. This is my Undertaker. This is my favorite version of him.
I've always loved the mystique of the Undertaker, the entrance, everything. What I have in my notes about his entrance is I think that Vince McMahon needs a change of pants after the gong rings, because he just, oh my goodness!
Oh my gosh! I had written down that Mabel just absolutely manhandles Taker here. Just absolutely is manhandling him. And up until this point, we really haven't seen Taker, I guess you could say Yokozuna, maybe just throw the Undertaker around.
Yeah. That's like, and this is a weird. So like my favorite version of the Undertaker is this entrance and his presence, but maybe not like his in-ring Undertaker version. Because at this time he's still the dead man. So like when he gets beat up, there's not a lot of, he moves, but there's not emotion on this man's face. I can't react along the way I can if Brett's getting beat up or Sean's getting beat up. The Undertaker is just like boom. And even in this match, there's multiple times where something happens to him and he's not like screaming in agony. He's just being there and he's being beaten up. And so like you want to get behind him, but like it's a totally different person to get behind than the normal like clap and stomp and the stuff you see on multiple other matches of this show. Undertaker does get his foot caught in the ropes here during this match, which I notated because I don't know if that was supposed to happen, but anytime that happened during this time period when someone got hooked up in the ropes, it always looks devastating. It's someone who's had their stuff trapped in the ropes. Like it's scary, whether it's cables or actual rope. Like that's something that I feel like everybody can think about getting their finger pinched or something like that. And you instantly like, oh my gosh, that looks like it's horrifically horrible. But that's not like the focus of the rest of the match. So I think like it didn't mean to happen. I think Mabel's hit Taker and Taker had his foot in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I had that in my notes as well. That was a scary moment for me. I've seen people get caught in the rope like that. You know, recent memory, Damian Priest got his foot stuck in the rope.
Oh, yeah. When he jumped over the top rope, and that was even extra scary because you thought he was going to do like a flip dive to the outside, and he got caught up. And when that happens, you instantly think somebody's walking away with a broken ankle or an injury that they didn't need to worry about having. But here we are in this moment. But that's probably not the thing that would have hurt the Undertaker the most in this match. It's when Undertaker gets back in and Mabel just sits on this man's back, lower back, and locks in a camel clutch with zero effort and all his weight on him, all 568 pounds or whatever it was. I could barely breathe watching this happen, because I can't even think, like, if we're peeling back the curtain and Undertaker is trying to converse with the referee, let alone Mabel, about what's happening next, good luck. Because that hurt me as a human, just seeing that man. And this is probably why people got real mad at Mabel for a long time about some of the silly stuff that he was doing in the ring. Stuff like this, I'm sure Undertaker did not appreciate whatsoever.
Right. You know, I look at Mabel, I look at Yokozuna, and I mean, they're big dudes. I'm a big dude, but I can't do half the shit these people do in the ring. I can barely move around. I wouldn't be able to get into a ring, go through the ropes right now, just because of my weight and my legs. But these people are big dudes, as big as me, and it's amazing, and it's both amazing and scary what they can do. I know, even it doesn't matter what weight I'm at, I don't want to be sat on by Mabel in any circumstance.
Yeah. And like, the other thing I noticed here is I notated that Mabel is trying to squeeze the life out of someone who has no life in them, because he's the dead man. So like, we're working with something here. Taker's not going to submit. He's got no life to give. So, but here we are, Mabel, come on. But Mabel does eat a big choke slam, but unfortunately we have no referee. But Kama does make his way back out, kicks him right in the back of the head. One big leg drop later, 1, 2, 3, Undertaker eats the pinfall, and we see Undertaker get pinned, which we do not see a lot during this time period of his career.
Right.
And that was quite eye-opening. So we have someone like Undertaker losing, who's a former WWF champion, Yokozuna losing, who's a former WWF champion, putting over people like Savio Vega and Mabel in these contests. But
and
Undertaker,
Shawn Michaels not advancing.
Right, exactly. We get all these big stars that we've built up, and we realized, oh, maybe the 95 King of the Ring is about the future of the new generation. But Taker does immediately get up, starts to do his slow dead man walk, and we see what is going to come of this, which looks to be more matches between Kama and the Undertaker.
I had written down, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to say that I want you guys fantasy book Mabel. Because I'm like, he's not the worst big man we've seen in the ring. He actually has a pretty decent move set for his size, and can get around the ring pretty well. And hey, he's pretty imposing when you look at him. So he's not the worst big man we've had, in my opinion. No way. Not
okay, so here, based on where we go later in this show, right, we get Mabel going over Savio Vega, right? So Savio's best friend, Razor Ramon feuding possibly, or has already feuded with, Jeff Jarrett, Intercontinental Champion. If we need to bring this man back up the ladder, let's get Razor to go over on Jeff Jarrett, get him back on the Intercontinental title, or Shawn, either one of these men, to take out Jeff Jarrett, and then set up your King of the Ring winner. To me, it makes more sense with Razor Ramon based on what happens at the end of the show. But get the Intercontinental Championship on Mabel. Give him a singles title to see what he can do with it, versus pushing him right to the top to get him in programs with Diesel. Give him someone like Scott, so that way he can work those matches with Razor Ramon to get him ready for a possible future program. And then we have our own Warrior Hogan face off, but it's Mabel and Diesel, leading to something like a SummerSlam.
It certainly would have given SummerSlam some more significance, because that definitely was lacking as well.
Yeah, but like that's me. If you want to, if you want to future book some stuff, give Mabel some gold, but not like at this time period. Like, we do have our work rate Intercontinental champions with Shawn and Brett and whatever, but it's one of those things where even if you were to see Bret Hart go over on Jeff Jarrett, but Bret Hart being multiple time WWF champion at this time, he doesn't go down the ranks, but Razor is like synonymous with that IC title, and with Mabel going through Savio, and then maybe Razor on his road to the IC title. Then he's got the crown, the sword, the belt. Now he wants the kingdom, and he comes for Diesel and his championship.
Kind of
That
like
would
the
have been
same
great.
route. Kind of the same route that Diesel took. Diesel was
Yeah.
the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah,
champion for a long
exactly.
time before
Yeah.
he became the world champion. So yeah, I like that. CZ, how would you book them?
I don't know that I would do anything different than what JT just described. My question is this: you talk about putting the Intercontinental title on him and building him into that main event picture. Do you feel that someone needs to wear that mid card title before they can jump into the main event?
Not necessarily, but in my wrestling brain, I feel like the trope of seeing people go from one championship to the next is like this. That's the ladder that we follow in our brains as we build superstars and we want to get behind people. Like if someone comes in and they win tag team gold, like let's say someone like Nathan Frazier in Fraxium, awesome tag team championship reign. If he loses it and they were to split, which will never happen, Fraxium is always okay. We
Agreed.
could see him become, the North American champion on his way to eventually stepping up to something. And then once he establishes those things, then we're like, wow, he's ready for the main roster, because in our minds, he's climbed the NXT ladder. And now we're ready for him to become a superstar, just like a Braun Breaker. If people get shoved down our throats, sometimes, like when Roman came out of the Shield, and then all of a sudden he was like our WWF champion, we were like, we don't want that. We liked when he was tag team champion Roman Reigns, but now he's just champion Roman Reigns. It doesn't feel like we got our story to follow that we wanted to create, because as fans, we want to be the reason that these people escalate to the next levels, because we helped them along the journey and we cheered for them as they won those things. But when we're not helping people win things, then it's like, well, we didn't do it, so we don't feel as invested into those people as performers, because we never got to go along for the ride. The ride was given to us.
Good point. I love that you said that. I don't disagree with anything you said there. Excuse me.
Now, the wild thing here is when we get to our next thing, instead of WrestleMania bringing us the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame is right before the King of the Ring the night before. And that threw me off, because I'm so used to the King of the Ring, not just being associated with anything, but like that's a great way that they used to make it. Like the King of the Ring used to be like the 5th pay-per-view, essentially. Like we had our major 4, but then we had the King of the Ring. And so if we want to put some prestige with it, King of the Ring, the next crowning of a champion, it brings us to the people that we should be recognizing for what they gave back to the World Wrestling Federation. So I thought that was cool. The one thing I really liked about the Hall of Fame ceremony, the way that they used to do it, is it was set up with that long table, like the roasts of Dean Martin, all the people that used to be like, I can imagine all the people being up there for an induction ceremony nowadays, and then like seeing people come up and kind of go through the table and roast them and talk about their accolades and stuff like that. And you see people sitting next to each other, genuinely reacting instead of just like one at a time. Like I understand how they do it, but like that old feel to the Hall of Fame, I think that was really cool and really fun. I would love to go back and watch those, because it just seems like such a genuine giant group of people having fun and going throughout the night and really embracing what the Hall of Fame is.
It seemed like a bigger deal. It seemed like a bigger deal in those videos, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was less of a ceremony and more of kind of a gathering of great talented people, in my opinion. And it's still a ceremony, but not as I don't want to say pompous. That's not the right word, but hopefully you know what I'm trying to iterate. I can't think of the right word.
Well, I mean, nowadays it's like the fans can have tickets, and back then it was invite only. It was a very prestigious dark room, And so at that time, if people are talking, they're giving their speech, they're giving the speech for the guys and gals in the locker room. That's who they really want to have fun and impress and get behind in those moments, not the 20,000 people that show up that want to get their own chants going and steal moments and all these different things that unfortunately some of the fans do nowadays. But believe me, Bret Hart would have never been attacked by a man in a Rastafarian hat if we would have stuck with what we used to do. But we also would have never got Dax. Was it Dax from FTR?
It was Cash. It was
Cash.
Yep.
Giving Cash that opportunity to punch that man in the face like he absolutely should have been. So the best of both worlds. But we get here Savio Vega with Razor, with Rhodey and Double J. Again, 2 people out, 2 people on the outside. We get a little bit of interaction here. This is the first time on the show where before this we get that backstage interview and the Road Dog or the Roadie really putting over the name the Road Dog. And when I watched this, I was like, I don't remember him calling himself the Road Dog that much. But then as the match goes on, like they're putting Road Dog over a lot. Like that's his new name. And I thought to myself, how do I not remember 1995, the Roadie turning into the Road Dog? But I wonder if they just tried it and it didn't feel like it stuck. And so they went with just the Roadie thing. And then they did the With My Baby Tonight thing. And the Road Dog just went away until 1997 came around. And they're like, you know what? You're the Road Dog again. We like it. It makes sense now.
You talk about With My Baby Tonight. I'm glad you bring it up because I was going to bring it up here in a few minutes. During the contest, we get confirmation from Doc Hendricks teasing a second music video from Double J. When was the first one? I mean, With My Baby Tonight is next month at In Your House 2. So I was kind of confused to what he was alluding to there.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if initially when Jeff Jarrett got brought into the World Wrestling Federation, they talked about how him being such a big movie guy in Nashville and Music City, that like that's what got him over as a pro wrestler and a singer. And I wonder if Jeff Jarrett was like, I had one hit single that took me to the top, and once I'm to the World Wrestling Federation, I'm going to unleash my next single, which is going to take me even further to the WWF Championship.
Yep, it's probably what it was.
Maybe Jeff Jarrett just didn't write enough hits, and with every hit, he actually would have got another title win, but they could never top With My Baby Tonight, so he stuck right there at that mid card, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's great.
With My Baby Tonight, it's only an IC level song, unfortunately. We never got that WWF title level song.
I'm surprised nobody's picked it up and sampled it or remixed it.
You know what? 2025, maybe we'll get some rapper who jumps on this and they know how to really. I mean, we've had Ric Flair drip, like we've had Booker T, like it's coming. It's coming. We can feel it.
I also wanted to give props here to Road Dogg. I thought he had I've always loved this move. A devastating swinging neck breaker, man. I thought he really. It was beautiful. I love that wrestling move. We don't see it enough anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah. I liked watch the Road Dogg matches on this show, because Road Dogg against Bob Holly, wild. And then you get Road Dogg against Savio, honestly, really good again. And you have to realize that a lot of this, 50% of it, is the Road Dogg taking a whooping at the hands of both of these men. And Road Dogg matches, absolutely, that shows you why he transcends and lasted so long, because this man is something special in the ring. And Road Dogg, he played his part really well. I did enjoy the end of this match. Double J jumps up on the ring apron. Yes. Rhodey stops himself, hit to the back by Savio, roll up 1, 2, 3. The only thing that took me out of the finish, when Road Dogg went down flat on the mat, his legs weren't kicking. He wasn't holding his face. He just laid there for 3 seconds. And I thought to myself, oh, I just needed that little extra thing of you selling your nose or something. Because at the start of his match, he gets clotheslined out, hits his nose on the ring apron, and he holds it. If you would have held his nose at the end of the match, give me the complete story of your poor face. But that's the only nitpick that I even stuck with. I was like, like that's what I wanted. But that's me being picky as the little pro wrestling stuff that I know nowadays.
I wrote on here, I absolutely love the finish. I love how it went down, how it ended, how you described it was spot on there. And we get Doc Hendricks accusing Savio of stealing his hubcaps. I mean,
oh my God. This is the best part of this whole pay-per-view. Is Savio cutting his own promo with one of the Spanish announcers to really put over this culture of what they're building. And then Doc Hendricks slides in here as this slimeball idiot going, oh, Savio, he's telling everybody that he doesn't have a chance, that he needs to go back to stealing hubcaps. Oh, Savio thinks he should give up before the match even starts. And I'm losing my mind that this man is just making up BS on the spot and not putting over this man's. I could not believe this. This is this aged poorly, but
yes,
it's insane that that's what they thought they should do at this time. I mean, imagine him in there with Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji's cutting a promo in Japanese and he says all the same stuff. It's like, you can't do that, guys. Like, just insane stuff. But I couldn't look away. It was a train wreck as it happened. And Savio looked so passionate, cutting his Puerto Rican promo, talking to his people. And Doc Hendricks just stole the spotlight by saying all these horrible things about him. Oh my God.
I was just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
It
Onward but upward here. We come to the point of the show where it's our first ever Kiss My Foot match. And I think to myself, maybe this is the match that saves this pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
That's the first thought I have. I'm like, okay, I love, we get the backstory, what happened, why it's going on. I'm like, this match is going to save the pay-per-view. It absolutely is. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. One of the greatest heels of all time at selling and just getting the crowd to lose their mind. Lawler, he doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion.
One of my favorite rivalries of all time.
Yes,
is not Lawler and Bret Hart. Oh no, it is Jerry Lawler against Helen Hart. Jerry Lawler against Helen Hart is my favorite rivalry of all time because this man tore his mother up from the day that she was ever introduced on TV. Poor Stu. You can understand a man going after a man, but this man went after Bret's mom forever. And I cannot believe the nostalgia this hit my heart. Like, I can't imagine if I would have ever finally got the one time that Helen slapped Jerry the King Lawler. Like, it would have been this monumental thing. And I'm sure Helen she didn't want to do it. And if they would have done it, it would have been the greatest ever. I mean, she got involved with throwing in the towel. Like, come on. Where was my Helen Hart payoff?
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. Like, King went after her. Like, at times it was almost like, man, you got your point across, but he just kept pushing it and pushing it. Always. I think it's what made him funny. It made him great. But I'm glad you guys thought the same thing. Is this the match that saves the pay-per-view? And I'm telling you, like, I mean, there's not a lot of bells and whistles with this match, but man, it gets the job done. It's good. It's good. It's
the other thing I thought of. It would have been a great WrestleMania moment if eventually, years down the road, we get this idiot, Michael Cole, who sits in the coal mine, his little box, and eventually he comes to have a match with Jerry the King Lawler at WrestleMania. Why did Michael Cole not challenge Jerry the King Lawler to take a taste of his own medicine and challenge him to a Kiss My Foot match at WrestleMania with Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler and bring it back so Lawler finally gets the win and puts his feet in Michael Cole's mouth 20 years later? Like, it would have been can you imagine the replays of that WrestleMania moment? Like, I don't need Stone Cold Steve Austin giving Michael Cole a stunner or reversing a decision, but a Kiss My Foot match at WrestleMania, that's what I needed. You make a good point. You're not going to hear me throw up an argument on that one. That's very valid, and I think the fans would have loved to have seen it. Absolutely. Did you guys want to CZ, did you ever think to yourself, man, I really wish Bret Hart would give me those glasses?
Probably at one point, I'm sure I did.
As a little kid, that's all I wanted. I thought that was the great. If you got Bret Hart sunglasses, it was like winning the lottery.
Those kids are so those kids are so lucky. How'd they do that? Like,
oh my God.
I know. I kind of felt the same way.
Like that's the way kids have to feel nowadays with Cody's weight belt, right?
Yeah.
If you get the weight belt, it's like the be all end all, like the greatest thing. Or John Cena throws his hat, like that is the typical give me a baby face that gives someone in the crowd the thing that could change their life. I love it. I love the giving away the sunglasses thing.
I have it on good authority that when Nick met Bret Hart, he asked if he could have a pair of his sunglasses.
Said, "Leave me alone, kid." No. You're not supposed to tell that story here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I pull the curtain back a little bit.
Now, the star of this match, we have Bret Hart, aka Mr. Intensity. Headbutts and punches to the face that looks like Hart, his technical wrestling and his tenacity that he wrestled with makes him stand out over anybody else on this show. The way that Bret wrestles on this show makes you stop and watch it. And that is the one thing that I will always take about 90s Bret Hart is somehow the way that he wrestled made me think that he was, no matter what, one of the toughest individuals inside the ring, which in reality he probably absolutely was based on who he was as a person. But the way that he could mix and mold those aspects into his wrestling was great. We do get the crowd chanting Burger King at Jerry Lawler, which never got old. Never. It's the one reason you went to Burger King and got one of those crowns, so you could go to a WWF event and make sure Jerry King Lawler knew you thought he sucked. Now, when we get further on into this match, the one thing that a lot of people complain about nowadays with wrestling and multiple finishers and people kicking out, dude, Bret Hart took 3 pile drivers and did not get beat. And when I saw that, I threw my hands up in the air. I said, oh, we're going to talk about Canadian destroyers and super kicks and Spanish flies. But Jerry Lawler, one of the most established champions in history, hits 3 pile drivers on Bret Hart and no pinfalls, no wins, no nothing. It blew me away that in 95 this was happening in that match.
This was my biggest issue with this match. You both know how much I rant about Cody hitting those 3 crossroads. Almost he's stopped now. It's gotten a lot less, but why is it necessary? And you look at, I look at today's time and Kevin Owens hitting a standard pile driver on Randy Orton, hitting the package pile driver on Cody Rhodes, and both of them getting carted out of the arena from 1 pile driver. And now Bret's taking 3 of them. This is supposed to be one of the most devastating moves in professional wrestling. There's a reason it was banned for so long in WWE.
We also saw a pile driver earlier in the night when Mabel gave one to The Undertaker.
Yes, we did. That was a sick one. And I always loved Lawler's pile driver. It was simple. It wasn't flashy, and it was quick. And I loved it. I loved the simplicity of it because it was devastating nonetheless. It was,
and Vince did
it so well.
Vince did a great job saying that if Bret Hart loses this match, he might as well retire. So without it being said, they almost put over that if Bret Hart were to lose this match, Bret Hart's going away forever because he'll never be able to show his face again.
Yes.
So that sucked me into it because they were telling the story that no, this isn't for a title, but if Bret loses, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to Bret Hart.
And he never let it down. King wouldn't let him live it down.
Yeah, sorry, exactly.
Go ahead, CZ. You broke up. I said sorry for jumping on you there, but like King would have never let him live it down. It would have been the end of Bret Hart for sure.
But honestly, I think that's the worst thing that could happen to anybody. I don't want anyone's foot in my mouth, let alone Jerry Lawler, who's been walking through manure.
Oh, and he pulls off the boot, and you see that dirty, filthy, gross little sock, and Lawler's hitting him with the boot and all these other things. And then we get another one of these 1995 classic superstars ran out. We get Hakushi coming to the ring with Shinji, and we see it backfire. Unfortunately for Jerry Lawler, another interference from the outside backfire on this show, which we saw multiple times, but the crowd loved it every single time, so I can't knock it too much. And of course, then we get Bret playing the hits. We get the Russian leg sweep. We get the diving elbow, and then we get the setup for that traditional sharpshooter. And what Bret did that I loved, he locked it in. They did the real slow out camera pan. He taps, he gives up. They come back in, and Earl Hebner says, I'm going to disqualify you if you don't let go. And Bret works the count, I think up until 3, and then he finally lets it go. And I thought, yes, if Bret Hart really hates Jerry Lawler, he would hold on to that and make him pay for everything he said to his mother. So that's the little stuff that I did like, that Bret held on to that before making sure that he had time to take off his boot. Now, I don't think it was necessary for Hakushi to come back out and do the diving shoulder tackle before we got the kiss my foot part of the match, but it got thrown in there. The crowd loved it. Bret Hart's the good guy, but it just seemed like they didn't need that extra thing in there.
A bit of overkill.
Yeah.
We also get Doc Hendricks just laughing hysterically, saying, hey, talk about defeat.
Oh.
The agony of defeat and the smell of defeat.
I cracked up. It was so bad I cracked up. So, and Lawler does a great job of selling all this, like, getting physically ill with, he's so good here. This is some of his best work.
Bret's toes were in his mouth, not rubbed on his face. Lawler opened his mouth and Bret's toes were in his mouth. Some sicko in wrestling had the greatest night of their life by watching another man practically suck another man's toes on pay-per-view. And it was insane. But the best part was Bret making Jerry kiss his own feet.
Yes.
Which really, really got into the fact that Lawler had done all this horrific work to really get at Bret Hart. And Bret said, I'm going to make you kiss your own feet. And that was the icing on the cake for this match.
It absolutely
really was.
That was, as Nick would say, chef's kiss.
It was. Yeah, it absolutely was. And we don't even have to get to it. We could bring it up. We can bring it up now. They cut to Lawler later in the show, throwing up in the bathroom, spraying all the toothpaste into his mouth, just really putting over what he's gone through. And they could have done that for weeks and weeks. Like, you can roll with Lawler can't get the taste of Bret Hart's feet out of his mouth. And it's just, that's the small stuff that storytelling wise, like you can take one small thing and you can run with it for a long time. Like someone could put over how bad Jerry Lawler's breath smells nowadays, and he could say, because that stinking Bret Hart. Like, it's great. I love that type of stuff.
And that's why you're going to face Jared Foote in the SCW Pro's first ever Kiss My Foot match.
Yeah. Oh my God. Is that if you know what? Jared's going to eat my feet, and then we're going to change his name from Jared Thumb to Jared Toe. And that's what he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. Now, the finals of this show, we get to the King of the Ring. Okay. We've got Mabel with Mo versus Savio and Razor.
I have written down dream match.
Savio's fourth match of the night. He started in the free-for-all. He wasn't even supposed to be on this pay-per-view, and the underdog is here in the finals of the pay-per-view. And I can remember thinking to myself, like, Savio's the guy. He's the babyface. He's going to do it. But unfortunately, that is not what we get. Mabel tried to do a lot in the beginning of this match to make Savio look great and got his butt kicked, even getting clotheslined over the top rope, which I was incredibly impressed with.
As was I.
He did that. We even get the spinning heel kick all the way at the end with the big kick out.
Yes, we do.
Now,
yes, we do.
The one thing I did not like before we got there the only time I was really sucked out of this match was the middle, because Mabel not bear hug, he bear slept on Savio's chest for 2 minutes, and it was atrocious, because they put over the fact that both men are tired, but Mabel really showed me the tired aspect of this instead of Savio. And I feel like you could have done it in many other ways, but like, don't give me your head on Savio's chest if you have a bear hug in, or when he had the chin lock. The chin locks looked more devastating because it looked like he was just squishing him. But
Yes.
the bear hug looked awful. I did not like that. And I was really taken out. And I think the crowd could have bought into Mabel more if this match would have been less of that type of stuff in the middle, and just put over, he gets his butt kicked. He gets his butt kicked. Oh man, Savio's going to win. Big squisher, big splash. It's over. Put over that all it takes is Mabel's weight for him to win. Don't give me any of the other BS in the middle, because I don't think it did any favors for Mabel.
No.
It definitely didn't do any favors. Could you hear the ECW chants break out
Right before the finish? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
The fans had enough, and I think that was them saying, "Hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We don't want to see it anymore." And I was wanting to get back to something that happened earlier in the match. Savio Vega was laying in the chops on Mabel. JT, who has the best chop in the WWE, and what's the hardest chop you've ever taken?
The hardest chop I've ever taken is Mason Beck, hands down. Always will be. That man, he makes it known that if his hands are coming to you, he's gonna knock the breath out of you. Nowadays in WWF, I think everybody's probably gonna point to Gunther as far as someone really laying it in there, but I would also put Drew McIntyre right there with Gunther. If I were to see two men just make each other's chests go purple, that's the two guys that I don't want to be hit by.
I can't
Excellent
disagree with
answers.
that.
Excellent
Great
answers.
We get the match, unfortunately, and honestly, like, maybe they had to go long on this match. That's why they were doing what they were doing on this.
Maybe
the big slam into the leg drop or into the splash, I was fine with it for the finish. I thought that put him over. And the shenanigans after the match, the only thing I didn't like is, like, they beat up Razor, which I'm happy about. It's same thing with 1-2-3 Kid, but it looked like he was going to splash him, and Razor has his ribs taped, which makes all the sense more to splash him, but he hits him with an elbow drop, and then Razor holds his gut, which
it's like he changed his mind.
Yeah, you have to brace. I understand, like, Razor would brace and that would hurt him, but like, put over your splash. That's just how you won the King of the Ring. Like, splash Razor, splash Kid, take out all three of them, so that way they all get to get taped up, and then, like, if they're all going to come back later, like, I don't know. I was shaking my head at that. It just didn't make any sense. Like, if make Mabel's second rope super splash, like, that's his huge thing. That, like, he can beat you with a regular splash, but to win a championship, he has the second rope splash.
Yes.
But Mabel, maybe his body, like, maybe he couldn't do that. Maybe with how big he was, like, second rope was, like, scary for him. But I don't know. Like, to me, that's what I thought. If Mabel would have integrated the second rope splash into his repertoire, maybe he could have been a world champion and people would have bought into it, just like the bonsai drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to see that. And I think it would have invested people a bit more in everything that is Mabel. But instead, we get Mo giving the worst proclamation ever. And my notes here, usually the King of the Ring has a scepter and a crown and a cape. Why did they incorporate a sword?
The big sword.
What was the point of the sword?
They're in Philly.
And I tell you, when Mo knelt down to hand him the sword, I thought for sure he was going to knight Mo,
Mm,
do the shoulder.
yeah.
But that didn't happen. I was so disappointed. If you're going to have the sword as a king, you've got to knight your mate. You've got to knight your partner.
Did you guys see King Mabel legit get hit in the head with a piece of garbage?
Dude, yeah, the fans were throwing garbage. If you watch behind him, the Philly fans are pissed. They hate that. And Mo was doing great to get heat. Yeah, like that whole segment, it put a lot of heat on him. People were pissed that he was the king of the ring. And like if that's what Philly's doing, like ride the high, make him a big heel. I liked where they went with the program, and maybe the things that Mabel did in the ring with the people he worked with got him unfortunate, like not so good circumstances in the back, and that's why he never went further than what he did. But like people hated Mo. Like I would have loved to have seen Mo just talk trash in every arena, Mabel squash people, put him over as a big heel champion, and then put your next baby face into a program and then squash him. He's our next Yokozuna, and let somebody else take the championship. And we never went that route. We pivoted. We pivot.
Absolutely. And maybe pivoted in the right direction. We'll never know. We did see Mabel later, kind of in the Attitude Era as Viscera, part of the ministry. This would be Mabel's crowning moment, the 95 King of the Ring. It's
unfortunately we never got Drew McIntyre versus King Mabel for that sword. Clearly, that's where it came from.
There you go. That's your dream. That's how you dream book right there.
Exactly. I mean, I never got to see. Oh, sure, yeah. But I would have loved to have seen King Mabel chop the ropes in half like Drew did, and we really would have scared people, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to this main event. And the first thing that we're going to do by setting up this main event is letting the most important man in the room talk to the camera. And that is Psycho Sid. This man, the way that he talks to this camera, I thought he could have been a villain in Die Hard or any of these other movies. The way that he talks is awesome. And I think that's what buys the crowd into it, because his look, his presence, the way that he talks, like Sid is the man. And that's no joke. And he has been for a long time. And I think that's why he had so much weight to throw around in WWF, WWE, ECW, WCW. People knew that if you booked Sid was money. And he put it over right here talking in this promo, because they could have cut it off to Tonka and DiBiase didn't need to say anything, and I would have been bought in that Sid's the baddest man on earth.
I can't really say anything better than what you just said. I wrote down, I always loved his promos. I listened to them. I loved his approach, his delivery. The guy's the biggest dude in the room, and he doesn't have to scream. And he was very, very intense, but he explained things and was very quiet with it. And is he the most underrated big man of all time? I just don't think he gets enough love.
Yeah. For some reason, like if you think back, I don't think he gets enough love. I really feel like people remember Sid, but they don't idolize him the way that they did Diesel. Like Diesel was the face of the generation. And we got our time period with Sid when he was battling with Shawn, but it felt like Shawn just overshadowed Sid and what he did too much to like make it feel like we had a Sid era. And I feel like that's what we needed, was a Sid era where, yeah, the little guys got the championships, but guess what? The big man's back, and you're not taking the belt from the big man. And I know we had the match with Taker at WrestleMania where Taker won, but like there's something about that Sid time period where I just don't think he had enough momentum or time to get those pivotal wins to make us all be like, Sid was huge. Sid really had that big run that we all remember.
Here's what I love about this Sid promo. It reminded me of a Jake the Snake Roberts promo. Mm-hmm. You are in this time area between mid 80s, mid 90s, where everybody has to yell and scream their promos, it has to be hyper intensity. But Jake the Snake and Sid both performed so well with the intensity being there without having to scream at us.
I think you have the quiet intensity of a Jake the Snake Roberts, but then you have the laugh that scares you like a Bray Wyatt, where if someone is so scary and they start laughing, you're almost like even more terrified because someone that scary shouldn't be laughing, especially to themselves. Because if they're making jokes that they think are funny, then something is really messed up in their own head. And that's kind of like the influence there that I saw with Sid, because when he would make himself laugh, I'm like, that's frightening, because he's being the funny one in the room to himself. And he's like making jokes about pain, which he's laughing at.
Yes, I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree.
Now, the thing I do like about this main event to me feels like current WWE. It feels like I have a superstar like Diesel, and I have a superstar like Sid, and I have my Tatanka, and I have my Bam Bam Bigelow, and I want to build both these guys up, right? So if maybe it's Cody and Jey Uso, that's my Diesel and my Bam Bam Bigelow. We're trying to build. And then on my other side, I have my Solo and my Jacob Fatu.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Like, I would have to look it up, but I wonder if this is Tatanka's only main event pay-per-view match that he ever had. And Tatanka looks really good here. Tatanka was very believable. I always liked his work. And as part of the $1 Million Corporation, he finally got a rub. But that's the thing. If I would have loved to have seen Sid as the champ, Tatanka is the IC champ, give me IRS and Kama and King Kong Bundy. Give me some tag team champions and let the $1 Million Corporation run rampant on that stuff. Like, it's, if you have a great group, establish the group, then let the titles fall off where we see them go. But I was really pumped for this main event because I can remember this era of Bam Bam Bigelow, and I can remember Shawn and Diesel were friends, two bad dudes with attitudes. And then all of a sudden Bam Bam was their friend, and I was like, oh, that's cool. If they like him, then I think I'm on board with Bam Bam. Yeah. And after watching him main event WrestleMania against Lawrence Taylor, regardless of losing and then getting kicked out of the $1 Million Corporation, that was a great way to turn him babyface. And then he's got the over-the-top suit shooting the flames out. Man, he was shooting the flames before Kane, way before Kane. Like, absolutely. So right. I thought that was really cool on the presentation that we got out of Bam Bam Bigelow, and the fact that we had people like Diesel putting him over as like a big main event player. But again, we're building these guys up, but I don't remember a Bam Bam tag team run, IC run. Like, there's plenty of meat left on the table for a lot of these people to like really solidify them. And it just kind of fell off. And we just had the same old stuff show after show. That's why we only remember a handful of superstars from this time period, because we really only pushed a couple people there at the top and gave them those world title or intercontinental title runs. Everybody else was like right there, but just not enough to make us remember them so diligently like we do some of the others.
Without a doubt. And Bam Bam is one of the most agile big men of this era. Just amazing the stuff that he can do in the ring. Yeah.
They really put over at the start of this match Diesel's injury, which I liked. You're just telling the big man he's got the hurt wing. Let's beat him up. Bam Bam gets the first hot tag of the match, rocks and rolls, hits the big headbutt off the top rope, distraction, and then we start getting him beat up. So I like that we put some sympathy on Diesel right away to make sure that we knew, like, even though he was coming out going, oh, my elbow's good, Diesel has... When I was little, Diesel was my absolute favorite, my 100% top guy all the time. I wanted to be tall, I wanted to have long hair, and I wanted to wear black and be cool, just like Big Daddy Cool. And when he comes out, he almost has that same I don't care attitude that Shawn gave earlier in the show. And when I look back on this stuff, that's the other part of, like, yeah, you're world champion, but like some of the stuff you're doing, it's just not resonating as my good guy. You're resonating as you're too cool. And when you're too cool, you take me out of it. And I don't realize that as a kid, but I can understand how, like, maybe some of the older adults and the older males that their wives were cheering about Shawn Michaels and Big Daddy Cool and these beautiful men. Like, maybe I don't like this guy. He thinks he's all that in a bag of chips, and that's not my baby face. Bret Hart's not doing that stuff. But when you get guys there acting like they're too cool for school, kind of takes you out of it a little bit. And Big Daddy Cool was doing that just a little bit too much, just like Shawn.
Can we talk about what I believe to be the worst jackknife powerbomb I think I've ever seen?
Ooh, yeah, that did not make me feel good when I saw Tatanka land the way that he did. And it was not in the center of the ring. Like, it was real ugly. Here's my qualm with this match. We get the tag where Diesel's coming in, and it was too quick. Like, you could tell the referee wasn't supposed to see the tag. Diesel had to come in, kick Sid's butt, go to drop the elbow, act like his elbow is hurt, and then tag Bam Bam right back in. And they put it over on commentary that was not enough time. Bam Bam was not recovered. But I could tell, I was like, that's what they needed to see, that, like, referee doesn't see the tag. Big Daddy Cool has to go back out, build for the big hot tag at the end of the match. And it got screwed up. And it was annoying because when you have those great performers in there, you really hope at that time period that you're going to, knock it out of the park. And I think some small stuff like that throughout the show, that's what makes people think the 95 King of the Ring's like this kind of a stinker of a show, because you have big things that stand out that really suck the energy, especially out of the Philadelphia crowd, which really, like you said at this time, they're hot-blooded ECW fans. And if you don't bring that energy, they're going to let you know it, and they'll take over your show.
Yes.
Now, the end of that match, here's what I don't like. So jackknife powerbomb, right? 1, 2. The referee slides out of the ring, just like we recently saw, and made the 3 count. But Big Daddy Cool pulls him up, and he points at Sid, which I'm okay with, right? Hey, big man, I want you. We're not ending the show until I kick your butt. Sid retreats. Boo, everybody hates it.
Yes.
Perfect. I love it. Great heel move. Set me up so I tune into Monday Night Raw tomorrow. Is Sid gonna get his comeuppance? What I hated, they cut back to the ring. Diesel drops an elbow and the show's over. What are you doing? Give me a power bomb, a good one, tag Bam Bam in, top rope headbutt, 1, 2, 3. The crowd gets to see the champion put over the other guy. It's Bam Bam beating the guy in the $1 million corporation that kicked him out. Give Bam Bam the win on pay-per-view. Have Diesel raise his arm at the end. Here we are. Like, I shook my head. I shook my head more at this one moment than any other moment on this show. I don't understand.
I'm glad you brought that to light, because you got to think about this. He lost to Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania 12. This can kind of be like his big, hey, you're going to main event a pay-per-view, and you're going to get the 1, 2, 3 and the big send-off home type of deal. This was probably it. And you're right. Bam Bam should have been the one getting the fall in this match. I wrote down a couple things when you guys were explaining this match and talking about different things. CZ, the promo in the match before, the promo with Diesel and Bigelow, Diesel calls Tatanka Pocahontas, and then the promo starts kind of going into different numbers, and I'm like, is this promo the precursor of Scott Steiner's numbers promo?
Yeah,
I thought the same thing watching it. I really
swear to God, it's written down. I'll send you a picture of my notes. I swear to God. CZ, is this promo the precursor of Scott Steiner's numbers promo?
Probably part of the inspiration. I have no doubt. Well, they say all men are never mind.
Had to throw that out there for you, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun talking about a stinker of a show. and I can't wait to see what we talk about next year. I know we have a list that's probably got 10 to 15 shows on it right now. Cross this one off the list. I'm excited for next year already, because I have a lot of fun talking about these pay-per-views that for all intents and purposes are not good.
Well, the reward is talking about them. You got to sit there and watch the crap, but the reward is, you're going to laugh about it for a while with your buddies talking about it. So, you know what? You can say it's the worst pay-per-view of all time, and what we've said tonight may prove that. But I think the fans, they lost this show. They lost the show when they have Taker go out to Mabel and Shawn Michaels go out in a draw. That's when people are like, yeah, I don't want this. This is not what I came to see. And you can't blame them. If I'm in Philly and I don't get to see Shawn Michaels wrestle once in a tournament and Undertaker only once. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure there could have been little tidbits of like stuff to like give us something in this. Like if Kama runs out during Undertaker's match and costs him the match, like why don't you have Shawn super kick him in the aisle? Like give me some Shawn about have Undertaker and Shawn. They're gonna face Kama and a partner of his choosing. Like give me some comeuppance. Like it makes me question and wonder like what happened the next night on Raw. How many of these things mattered and how many of them did you actually like just kind of shrug your shoulders at and like we just had to put it in there? Because like we had some really good storytelling elements in this enough where we can sit here and talk and fantasy book stuff and wonder how this went or how that went. But there's other stuff that you're like, I don't know if that ever got paid off. And if it didn't ever get paid off, like why do we do it? Like if you have these stories that you're going to tell throughout it, like there could have been or had to have been some type of better way. Like don't give me a double count out. Whoever Shawn Michaels is going to feud with, have him come in and punch Kama in the face and cause a disqualification that Shawn didn't even cause. And that's how he got taken out of the tournament instead of just like this double time elimination. Like there's just small stuff in here. Like I was happy that I got Kama doing something to Undertaker because now I know Undertaker is going to go get Kama. But nothing happened to Shawn. And if Kama's involved with Undertaker, then that means Shawn has nothing. So like where did Shawn go from here?
Yeah, there's no clear-cut paths at all. But we have a clear-cut path coming up into 2025. I'm excited. We're nearing the end of the year. We've got the Kickout coming midweek. We've got World's End to close out the year, and we've got some big stuff coming in 2025, and hopefully 40 more and further moments of focus. This was the 41st edition on this show. Definitely love having you part of the show, JT. Always a pleasure to see you come on and give us some words of wisdom and to review shows with us. We love having you here. Feel free to come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Well, you might want to check your DMs. I assume Jared is probably he's probably pitching you the toe jam of the week at this point.
Oh, the toe jam of the week. JT, I do want to tell you, I mentioned Regal wanting you to meet Krampus this year. I did some stats yesterday on Nick's request. You have a ways to go. Mr. Regal has been on 13 full episodes. So you've got some catching up to do.
I'm so sorry you had to do that.
I mean, you trump him by having a segment every week. Don't get me wrong.
My guess at this point is what Jerry Lawler's sock looked like in that match with Bret Hart. That's what Timothy Regal's underwear looks like at the end of SCW Pro shows every month. Mr. Regal, I will wait for your response. And that, my friends, is why I should be your SCW Pro Performer of the Year, because no one else will tear Timothy Regal up like I do. make sure to vote for me in the SCW Pro Year-End Awards. Go to SCW Pro on X, click their pinned tweet, and vote for JT Energy. SCW Pro did not have the cojones to put me in other categories this year, though I deserved more than one. Performer of the Year, three-peat. And when I three-peat, I promise you, no more Timothy Regal, no more Jared Thumb. I'm making some of these things go away because I don't need this stuff in my life anymore.
Well, we need you to do more with us here, especially that moment of focus. We love it. That is going to put a bow on tonight's episode of Card Subject to Change. Just a quick reminder, we are the podcast by the fan, for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We will see you midweek. We will have a Christmas edition of the Kickout, and then right back here next week on Card Subject to Change. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.